Hello everyone, Mel here and welcome back to the channel. This is a continuation from the earlier video that I posted, which was to do about the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle that we find often in people with an external locus of control. You find this often with people who have BPD, who have MPD, and it's a sign of someone who is psychologically stuck. It takes a certain amount of maturity to be able to internalize that locus of control, to take back responsibility, to be able to realize that you are your own jailer of your own suffering. You keep yourself in your own jail cell, but you also have the keys within you to unlock the cell that you're in and to experience freedom from suffering. The thing is that it's not an instantly happy process. In fact, it can be quite tough. The path towards freedom and to unlock this jail cell of suffering is to do shadow work, as Jung would say. It's to face your own inner darkness. It's to sit with the mistakes that you've made and to realize that you have made mistakes and you have hurt people and perhaps you weren't as great as you thought you were. It's a very humbling experience, and it's meant to break you down from this rigid idea of who you are and who you should be and who others should be, for you to honestly look at what you are projecting onto others. And how do you know that you're projecting onto others? It's things about ourselves that we just don't see in ourselves. So whether it's someone who just doesn't see their own inner goodness, they don't think they're good enough maybe, and they meet someone who seems to embody that, and say they project their inner gold, I like to call it. They project the side of them that they don't see in them, and this person is holding it for them. So what happens is the person who is receiving this projection is elevated, has been put onto a pedestal, and this person, it's a wonderful feeling. And this is often what happens when we get into a relationship with someone who has BPD. It's this initial elevation of being idealized, worshipped, adored. It's a wonderful feeling, especially if you feel less than. If you never really had someone truly see you and mirror to you your inner greatness, and now you have someone doing this to you, how can it not feel good? If you never had this before, it can become addictive and intoxifying. And what's going on for this person who is elevating you is that they are running wild at this fantasy that you are the one. This is it. This is the relationship that is going to be the one. It's going to be the relationship that pulls them out of their misery, where everything's going to work out and they won't have to suffer anymore. So if you come along and you start to tick off some of their boxes, and they start to see you as this person who could actually rescue them from their misery, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a knight in shining armor literally coming to rescue them, but perhaps someone who is willing to put their time aside and put their life to one side to be able to sit and listen to this person and to be so sympathetic. And that is a form of rescuing, in a subtle form of rescuing, but this person wants to be rescued from their own inner pain in that moment. When you're being idealized at the beginning of the BPD relationship, it's not just you. The person who is idealizing you is wanting to see within you what they so desperately want to see within themselves. And when the tables turn and you fall off that pedestal, you come crashing down, you're devalued, and now your BPD partner sees within you what they don't want to see within themselves. Can you see the difference? At the beginning, they see in you what they want to see in themselves, and then at the end, they see in you what they don't want to see within themselves. Can you see that someone who, by definition, has a distorted perception of reality, they're not truly seeing you, all of you? But this is not all on your borderline partner. Why are you choosing people who are only seeing you in this way? Are you only seeing yourself in a certain way? Because if you do, you will bring people into your life who will keep replaying what you are telling yourself in your head. It's messed up, but it's true. Our thoughts have a lot of power, and if you overthink, if you like to obsess and dwell, you will end up creating an external reality that matches your internal reality. It's why I'm encouraging in all my videos to practice mindfulness and meditation, breathing exercises, anything to help you snap out of it, because getting into obsessional thinking, getting into circular thoughts, vicious cycles, this creates more and more energy, and it becomes like a whirlpool in which you lose control. You have no more, you lose awareness and you're stuck. You lose willpower to get yourself out of it. As I pointed out in earlier videos that I've done on this channel, it's a common pattern to date someone who has BPD when you are initially elevated, you're worshipped, you are adored, it feels like the best loving relationship, and it's wonderful. For it to then go downhill and then to be seen as someone who is the complete opposite, where you were once worshipped and adored and elevated and seen as this amazing person, you are now seen as the opposite. And it's very painful. It creates a lot of cognitive dissonance to try and reconcile these two opposites. How can this person who see me in such an amazing way is now seeing me in such a terrible way? And this is the main problem that my clients are approaching me with, this thinking about this, constantly thinking and thinking. Even though the relationship is now over, they can't get their borderline partner out of their head. And this is partly why. It's they can't wrap their heads around why this happened, because objectively they may not have done anything that would mean that they were seen in such a bad light. But this is it though, your partner, your dysfunctional partner, is not seeing reality quite the same way as you are. If you have a partner who has BPD and is quite far gone on the BPD spectrum, all right, it is a spectrum. There are people who have traits and have a lot more self-awareness and self-constraint versus people who are quite far gone on the BPD spectrum. Such people really struggle with regulating their emotions, and we're struggling with the intrusive thoughts, the suspicious thoughts, that they see things that you're doing which confirms their suspicions that you're not as great as they hoped you would be. And this is the painful reality of people who have BPD, the anxiety that comes with these intrusive thoughts that never really seem to stop. The thoughts that make them suspicious and wary of the good thing that they've got going on. If you watch a few videos back, I've made a video talking about trauma and sabotage, and how unfortunately people who are very traumatized have a greater propensity towards self-sabotage compared to others. And it's really shown in BPD that they struggle with their own thoughts telling them to not trust the people who love them. So at the beginning, you may have been elevated and this person's thinking, finally, I've met someone who is a good person, it's exactly what I wanted. This relationship is exactly what I wanted. But it doesn't stop these suspicious, intrusive thoughts that cause them to question. And if you've done something that has irritated your borderline partner, has angered them, and they are unable to regulate their emotions and to do a reality check, instead they get caught up with their feelings, and that creates more thoughts that are of a suspicious nature, and then they will be on the lookout for any signs that you give that might confirm to them what they are suspiciously thinking. And for someone who is quite far gone on the BPD spectrum, they lose their sense of control over this, and it's like their whims, their impulses, their intrusive thoughts end up controlling them, and they become like puppets to this unseen puppet master that is the energy of BPD, I guess. And as a result, someone can go from being the good guy to the bad guy. Someone can go from being the rescuer to the persecutor. It's very painful to witness. If you see a loved one experiencing this, it's very painful to go through this yourself. And you see this happening in people who have an external locus of control. As I mentioned in my previous video, people who always see themselves as the victim and nothing is ever their fault. So they think they don't need to change, because why would you if nothing's ever your fault? If it's always other people that are either giving you a good mood or giving you a bad mood. It's always other people, it's never you. And when you keep thinking and living like this, you then become dependent on other people to cheer you up. You become dependent on other people to create the false self, this false narrative that you've got going on in your head, where you are the victim of everything. Often people go from being the rescuer to being the persecutor and then ghosted. But sometimes the roles can reverse back again. And unfortunately, this is often, in my experience anyway, when people have run out of resources and the fear, whether that's fear of loneliness, fear of abandonment, fear of not being able to eat, fear of being lonely, that in itself can be a motivator to change how they think and feel and see you. Suddenly memories of the past change again, and this person comes back into your life seemingly wanting to get back together and acting like nothing's happened. It can happen, and it does happen. I hear it a lot from my clients. And again, this just goes to show that you're a resource for this person. If this is happening to you, just a word of advice: when this person comes back into your life, whether it's a friend, whether it's your ex, ask them, why now? Okay? You will then find out if there is an ulterior motive for this person coming back into your life, because it's not normal for someone to suddenly seemingly hating you and blaming everything on you and thinking you're the worst person in the world, get away from me, to then coming back and, you know, saying, oh, I've been thinking about you, and even then with this other person, there have been times when I've always been thinking about you, and, you know, hey, do you remember this memory of when we did this, when we did that? Doing what it takes to get you to think about the good times and to remember them during the good times. Ask them, why now? And take time to think about it. Pause. Do not rush into any decisions. And if your borderline ex is pressurizing you into making a decision, then this is a massive warning sign that this person is here for ulterior motives, and that you most definitely need to pause and wait if this is a situation. Do not rush into anything that can cause you to reharm yourself. So my final thoughts on this: if you are struggling with the pain of being seen as the knight in shining armor, the rescuer, the hero, to now being seen as, you know, dirty little devil, a bad person, someone who created all this pain and suffering, it's a little bit of a mindfuck, is it not? And all the more so for people who want to be seen as the rescuer, who have based their identity on being the good guy, the person who helps out the damsel in distress. If this is your identity, you will attract people like this. You will attract people who want to use you. And it's so hard to be seen in a bad light when you know that it's not all of you, that they've got the wrong picture, and there's nothing you can do to change their mind. And sometimes the more that you try to convince them that you're not a bad person, if they want to see you as a persecutor, then they will interpret this as you bothering them, and they will see you in even worse of a light. You literally can't win. So what can you do then within yourself, for yourself, to help manage this pain, this suffering of being seen in such a bad light when you were seen in such a good light before? Well, remember that with BPD is that they don't really have object constancy. They tend to see things either black or white, good or bad. So this is why you've been split in how they perceive you. You're either the good person or the bad person. And unfortunately, they find it really hard to see that people can be shades of grey. You can be both the white and the dark, and all shades of grey in between. And they struggle with that, but that doesn't determine who you are. Do not let someone with a distorted perception of reality tell you who you are. I'll leave it there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do get in contact with me if you've got feedback for the video. If you want to get in contact with counselling services, if you are struggling coming out of a BPD relationship and you can relate to this video and you need some extra guidance and support, know that I offer online counselling and coaching services to help you exactly in this. So if you want to find out more, please get in contact. My email address is in the video description below. All right, well, have a lovely day and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.